The wind hit the castle like it was trying to push it off the hill. Harry Potter pulled his cloak tighter and kept his head down as he crossed the dark grass. The sky was black and heavy. Lightning flashed far away, but the thunder felt close, like a giant rolling a stone right above the towers. "Are you sure we should be out here?" Ron whispered. "We're not staying long," Hermione said. Her voice tried to be calm, but it had a thin edge. "We just need to check the meeting spot. If Umbridge put someone there." "If she put someone there, we'll know," Harry said. He didn't like how his scar had been prickling all evening. Not burning, not screaming, just itching, like a warning that did not know what shape it wanted yet. They were near the edge of the grounds now, not far from the trees of the Forbidden Forest. The air felt colder here, not winter cold, worse, like the cold from a cellar you never want to open. Ron slowed. "Do you feel that?" Hermione nodded. "Yes." Harry's hand went to his wand without thinking. He did not want to say the word out loud, like saying it could pull them closer. Dementors. The storm rolled again. Then, for a second, everything went quiet. No wind, no leaves, no distant owl calls. Harry looked up. The sky split. It was not like lightning. Lightning was jagged and fast and loud. This was a smooth tear in the air, a clean line of pale light opening above the grass like a door made of shining paper. Hermione gasped. That's not..." The tear widened. Something fell through. A man hit the ground hard enough to bend the grass flat in a circle. He did not roll. He did not scream. He landed like a heavy stone that chose where to stop. Harry raised his wand. "Who are you?" The man pushed himself up with one hand. In the other, he held a staff. He was tall, with long white hair and a white beard that moved in the wind like it had its own life. He wore white robes, travel-worn, and a cloak that did not look like any Hogwarts cloak. His eyes caught the lightning and gave it back, bright and steady. He looked at the three of them the way a teacher looks at students who are lost in the wrong hallway. "Children," he said. His voice was calm, but it carried through the storm like a bell. "This is not the place I meant to come." Ron's mouth fell open. "Blimey." Hermione stepped forward half a pace, like her feet were arguing with her fear. "Sir, this is Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Are you injured?" The man touched his chest, then his shoulder, as if checking his own bones. "Bruised, not broken." Harry did not lower his wand. "How did you get here?" The man looked up at the tear in the sky. It was already closing, the light thinning like a curtain being pulled shut. His eyes narrowed, not with panic, but with focus. "A door that should not have opened," he said quietly. Then the cold hit. It swept over the grass and slammed into Harry's face like ice water. His lungs forgot how to work. His heart stuttered. The storm sounds fell away. Everything became far and muffled, like Harry had been shoved under a frozen lake. He saw them, shadows gliding low, cloaks like wet smoke, faces hidden, hunger pouring out of them. Ron's knees buckled. Hermione's breath came in short, sharp pulls. Harry's hand shook. "Expecto." His voice failed. The cold crushed the word before it could leave. The tall stranger stepped in front of them. He did not raise a wand. He raised his staff. The tip of the staff flared, not like a spark, but like a small sun waking up. White light poured out, clean and warm. It did not roar. It did not crackle. It simply existed, and the darkness did not like it. The Dementors stopped in midair as if they had hit glass. Harry felt the cold pull back from his chest, inch by inch. He could breathe again. The screams in his head faded, not gone but pushed away. The stranger's voice changed. It was still calm, but now it had weight. "You do not touch them," he said. The light grew brighter. The Dementors drifted back, slow and unwilling, like dogs forced away from food by a bigger predator. Harry stared. He had seen Patronuses before. Stags, otters, dogs. This was not that. This was not a shape. It was not an animal. It was pure brightness, like day pushed into the night by force. One Dementor tried to slide around the edge of the light, searching for a gap. The stranger turned his head slightly, almost bored, and lifted his staff a few inches. A white line snapped across the grass like a fence being built in the air. The Dementor hit it and recoiled, as if it had been burned. Ron made a strangled sound. That's not normal. Hermione's eyes were wide and hungry at the same time. She looked terrified and fascinated, like she wanted to run and take notes. Harry's scar prickled again. Not pain. Recognition. Something far away had noticed this. The Dementors withdrew into the storm shadows. Still close, still waiting, but no longer daring to dive. The stranger lowered the staff. The light faded, leaving after images in Harry's eyes. "Are there always such things near a school?" the man asked, looking at them now. Harry swallowed. His voice came out rough. "No, they weren't supposed to be." Hermione found her voice again. "Sir, who are you?" The man looked past them, up at the castle, as if he could feel it the way you feel, heat from a fire. "My name," he said, "is Gandalf." Harry had never heard the name before, but the way Gandalf said it made it sound like a promise and a warning at the same time. Footsteps sounded on the grass behind them, fast, controlled, and not afraid. Harry turned, wand still up. Albus Dumbledore approached through the storm like he was walking through a hallway, not a battlefield. His robes did not flap wildly. His beard did not whip in the wind. He was simply there, calm inside chaos. His eyes moved from the withdrawn Dementors to the torn sky that had just healed, then to Gandalf, measuring without looking rude. Dumbledore's voice was gentle. "Good evening." Gandalf faced him and did not bow, but he did not threaten either. Two old men, both dangerous, standing on wet grass while children tried not to shake. Dumbledore smiled slightly, like he was greeting someone unexpected at a dinner party. "You are not from any world I know," he said, "and yet the castle seems to recognize you." Harry felt the hairs on his arms rise again. Because the way Dumbledore said it, Harry understood. This was not just a stranger. This was a new problem for the whole world. And somewhere far beyond the storm, something dark was listening. Dumbledore's office smelled like old paper, lemon drops, and warm wood. It usually made Harry feel safe. Tonight, it felt like a room where storms came to sit down and talk. Harry stood near the door with Ron and Hermione. Professor McGonagall was there too, stiff and watchful. Fawkes the Phoenix sat on his perch, eyes bright. The portraits on the walls pretended not to stare, but Harry could see them leaning. Gandalf stood in the middle of the room, staff in hand. He looked around at the moving portraits and spinning instruments like he was in a strange city and was trying to understand its rules. Dumbledore did not push him into a chair. He did not order him to disarm. He offered him tea. It was a tiny thing, but Harry noticed it. Dumbledore did not treat Gandalf like a student. He treated him like a visiting headmaster from a school no one had heard of. "Tea," Dumbledore said, "is sometimes the best spell." Gandalf looked at the cup, then at Dumbledore. "In that we agree." He took it. His hands were steady. He sipped like he had done this in 100 different places. Dumbledore sat behind his desk, but he did not lean back. His eyes were kind, but they were sharp. "I must ask," Dumbledore said, "what you are." Gandalf's eyes flicked to Harry, Ron, and Hermione. Not suspicious, concerned. "Not a threat to children," he said. "That answer," McGonagall said crisply, "does not tell us much." Gandalf turned to her. "It tells you what matters first." McGonagall's mouth tightened, but Harry saw something else in her eyes. Respect, not full, not yet, but a crack in her hard certainty. Dumbledore's fingers tapped lightly on the desk. "Where did you come from?" Gandalf looked down at his staff, as if it was a map he could read. "A long road," he said. "A world with kings and wars and shadows. I was sent there to help those who cannot fight the darkness alone." Sent, Harry thought, like a weapon or like a guard. "Sent by whom?" Hermione asked, unable to stop herself. Gandalf smiled a little, and it made him look tired in a human way. "By powers that do not need their names spoken here." Ron made a small squeak and then pretended it was a cough. McGonagall gave him a look. The door opened without a knock. Professor Snape walked in like the room belonged to him. His eyes landed on Gandalf at once. and his face gave nothing away. Harry's stomach tightened. Snape always made it feel like the air got thinner. Snape bowed his head slightly to Dumbledore. Headmaster. Then he looked at Gandalf. So this is the visitor. Gandalf met his gaze without blinking. Snape's voice was smooth. We have had intruders before. Most do not walk in through the sky. Gandalf's tone stayed calm. Then your skies are too open. Snape's lips curled almost imperceptibly. Or your doors are too careless. Harry could feel it, two different kinds of danger pressing against each other. Snape was like a knife hidden in a sleeve. Gandalf was like a torch in a cave. Dumbledore's voice cut through gently. Severus, I would like you to observe, not provoke. Snape's eyes flicked to Dumbledore. Of course. But Harry knew Snape. Observe meant test. Snape stepped closer to Gandalf, slow and casual. You hold a staff. You used light. His eyes narrowed. You did not use a wand. Gandalf lifted his staff slightly. This is enough. Snape's gaze sharpened. We shall see. Harry saw Snape's fingers twitch, barely. No wand lifted, no words spoken. But Harry had seen legilimency before. He had felt Snape's mind push into his like cold fingers. Snape did it again, silent, sharp. Gandalf's eyes did not widen. He did not flinch. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the room changed. Not with a sound, not with a flash. Just a pressure. Like the air had become deep water. Harry's skin prickled. Fawkes lifted his head. Snape's face tightened for the first time, a small crack in his control. It was not that Gandalf blocked him like Harry tried to. It was like Snape had pressed his mind against a mountain and realized the mountain was looking back. Snape's eyes snapped away, and he took half a step back before he could stop himself. Gandalf spoke softly, not mocking but firm. Do not do that again. Silence fell. Ron stared at Snape like he had just seen a dragon blink. Hermione's breath came out in a small rush. She looked at Gandalf like a whole library had walked into the room. Dumbledore's gaze stayed steady, but his tone shifted, a little more serious now. Thank you, Severus. Snape's jaw worked once. He is not human, Snape said flatly. Gandalf did not deny it. He also did not confirm it in words that would explain anything to them. I wear the shape that suits the task, Gandalf said. That is all you need. McGonagall's voice went quiet, which was scarier than loud. And what is your task here? Gandalf looked to the window. Rain traced lines down the glass. Beyond it, Hogwarts stood as it always did, strong, old, and full of secrets. I did not choose to come, Gandalf said. But I am here. And I feel fear in these halls. Harry's heart thumped. He did not like how true that felt. Dumbledore nodded slowly. Fear has been invited in, I'm afraid. Gandalf turned back. Then someone must ask it to leave. Dumbledore's mouth twitched, almost a smile, but his eyes stayed hard. There are rules here. Gandalf's eyes flashed. Rules did not stop those shadows outside. Rules do not stop a dark heart. Harry wanted to cheer. He also wanted to hide. Because talking like that in Hogwarts right now could get you punished, or worse. Dumbledore leaned forward. We must be careful. The Ministry watches this school very closely. At the word Ministry, Gandalf's expression changed. Not fear, dislike. Like someone had mentioned chains. A king's court, Gandalf said, without a king. McGonagall blinked. That is oddly accurate. Dumbledore folded his hands. For now, you will be our guest. You will be safe here. Gandalf's voice stayed steady, but Harry heard iron under it. No place is safe if darkness has already been welcomed. Dumbledore's eyes softened for a moment. Then perhaps we can help each other. Gandalf studied Dumbledore. Harry realized he was doing his own kind of test. Not spells, not mind tricks, just reading the shape of a person. Finally, Gandalf nodded once. Very well. Dumbledore turned to Harry and his friends. You three may go. Harry hesitated. Professor, what about... Dumbledore's gaze was kind but firm. Go. Harry left, but the moment the door closed, He pressed his ear to it like an idiot. He heard only muffled voices. Hermione tugged his sleeve. "Harry, we're going to get caught," Ron whispered. He made Snape step back. Harry's mind kept returning to one thing. The Dementors had fled. Not just pushed away. Fled. Harry had never seen them do that unless a Patronus was strong and close. Even then, they usually drifted, waited, came back. This time, they had backed off like they were scared. In the corridor, the torches burned steady. The castle felt normal again, but Harry could not shake the feeling that something had shifted under the stones. Something from another world had walked into their war, and Voldemort would not ignore it. By morning, rumors moved faster than owls. Harry heard whispers at breakfast. "Did you hear? A man fell from the sky. Some new ministry inspector. My cousin says it was a giant. Someone said it was Dumbledore's brother." Hermione tried to shut it down, but her eyes kept darting to the staff table. Professor Umbridge sat there in pink, smiling into her tea like nothing in the world could bother her. Harry hated that smile. He noticed something else, too. Umbridge's eyes kept flicking toward Dumbledore's chair. She was waiting. For news, for control, for a way to make the castle smaller. After breakfast, Harry was pulled aside by McGonagall. Her tone was brisk. "Potter, you will not speak about last night." Harry opened his mouth. "Not a word," she repeated, and her eyes sharpened. "Not because I do not trust you. Because I do not trust the people listening." Harry swallowed. "Yes, Professor." As he turned away, he saw Umbridge watching him like a cat watching a mouse. Later, in a quiet hallway, Harry almost ran into the stranger. Gandalf stood by a window, looking down at the courtyards and towers. The moving staircases shifted behind him with a groan. Harry froze. Gandalf turned and nodded like Harry was expected. "Good morning." Harry's throat tightened. "Sir." Gandalf's eyes were kinder now than they had been in the storm. "You carry a heavy thing," he said. Harry's scar prickled again, like it heard the words and did not like them. Harry did not know what to say. Gandalf looked past him. "This place is alive." "It's Hogwarts," Harry said. Like that explained everything. Gandalf's brows rose. "Hogwarts." He said it slowly, tasting the name. Harry blurted the first thing that came to mind. "You really drove the Dementors away." Gandalf's face tightened a little. "Those feeders, they are not natural. They're guards," Harry said bitterly. "The Ministry uses them." Gandalf's eyes narrowed. "A government uses Soul Eaters as guards." Harry nodded. For a moment, Gandalf looked older than his beard. He looked like someone who had seen too many councils make stupid choices and then call it law. "This world is in trouble," Gandalf said quietly. Harry's chest tightened. "Yeah." A staircase shifted with a loud grind. It moved toward them like it had chosen violence. Ron, who had been jogging to catch up, yelped and grabbed the railing. "I hate those stairs." Gandalf watched the stair turn. Then he looked at Harry with a serious face and said, "Your castle has opinions." Harry almost smiled. Almost. Hermione hurried up too, breathing hard. "There you are, Harry. We have charms." Then she froze as she saw Gandalf. Her eyes widened the way they had in the office. "Sir, may I ask you a question?" Gandalf nodded. Hermione spoke fast, like her brain was running ahead. "Last night, the light you used. It wasn't a Patronus. It wasn't even like a shield charm. What was it?" Gandalf tilted his head. "A reminder." "A reminder?" Hermione echoed. Gandalf's voice softened. "To the dark, that it is not the only thing that exists." Hermione swallowed. She looked like she wanted to ask 20 more questions. But she also looked like she was afraid of what the answers might mean. Ron stared at Gandalf's staff. "So, do you do everything with that?" Gandalf's mouth twitched. "Not everything." Ron nodded like that made sense, then whispered to Harry, "He's weird, but good weird." Footsteps clicked behind them, high heels. A sweet, fake voice. "Good morning, children." Umbridge stood at the end of the hallway, hands folded, smile bright. Her eyes were fixed on Gandalf like she had found a rare animal. "And you," she said, "must be our guest." Gandalf turned slowly. He did not bow. He did not look impressed. Umbridge's smile sharpened. Dolores Umbridge, High Inquisitor of Hogwarts. Gandalf's eyes did not change, but Harry felt the air shift again, like a candle flame leaning away from a cold draft. Inquisitor, Gandalf repeated. Yes, Umbridge said sweetly. It means I ensure the school is safe and properly run. Gandalf's voice stayed polite. Then you must be very busy. Umbridge did not like that. Harry saw it in her eyes. She stepped closer. We have procedures. Any visitor must be registered with the Ministry. Any magic used on school grounds must be recorded. Gandalf's gaze went past her, as if he was already tired. I used magic to stop your guards from eating children. Umbridge's smile did not move, but the skin around it tightened. That is an unhelpful way to describe it. Gandalf leaned slightly on his staff. It is the correct way. Harry's heart hammered. He had seen grown adults bend around Umbridge, even teachers. Gandalf did not bend at all. Umbridge's voice became syrupy. I am sure you mean well, Mr. Gandalf. That is my name, Gandalf said. Umbridge's eyes flicked, searching for a last name, a title, a hook to hang a chain on. And your position? Gandalf's eyes met hers. I am not here to take your position. Umbridge's smile grew bigger, which meant she was angry. Oh, we shall see. She turned on her heel and walked away, pink and poisonous. Hermione exhaled. That was dangerous, Harry finished. Gandalf looked at them. Does she frighten you? Ron snorted before he could stop himself. Yes. Gandalf nodded like that was reasonable. Then you must learn to stand anyway. Harry stared at him. We try. Gandalf's voice went quieter. Try is a start. But you will need more than that. Then he looked down the hall, toward the Allery towers outside the windows. I need to send word, he said, almost to himself. Hermione blinked. To who? Gandalf said it like it was obvious. The Eagles. Ron frowned. We don't have eagles. Gandalf's face fell in real disappointment. A school without eagles. Hermione hurried to explain. We use owls. They're very reliable. Gandalf looked at her, then at Harry, then at Ron, like he was judging if this world was playing a joke on him. Owls, he said slowly. Brave little birds. Ron brightened. See? He gets it. Gandalf added, but not eagles. Harry felt a weird, sharp laugh bubble up in his chest. It was small, and it felt almost wrong, like laughing in a graveyard. But it also felt human. And for the first time in a long time, Harry thought, maybe this stranger could change something, or maybe he would make everything worse. That night, in a cold, hidden place far from Hogwarts, a snake moved across stone. A pale man stood still in the dark like a statue that had learned to breathe. Lord Voldemort listened. Not with ears, with something deeper. There had been a tear, a flash of light, a push against the hunger of his dementors, a bright presence that did not belong to this world. He pressed two pale fingers to his own temple, as if touching a bruise. Harry Potter's scar. He felt a ripple through the link. Not pain, not panic. Something else. A weight. An old fire. Voldemort's lip curled. So, he whispered to the empty air, Dumbledore collects miracles now. Nagini lifted her head, sensing his mood. Voldemort's red eyes narrowed. He had faced powerful wizards. He had faced ancient magic. But this felt different, like a door to a room he had not yet robbed. His voice became soft and pleased, the way it did when he planned something cruel. Find out what he is, Voldemort said. The shadows seemed to move, as if obeying. And if he is a door, Voldemort added, then I will open him. 2 days later, the Dementors came back. Not like before. Not one or two drifting at the edge of the lake, far enough that teachers could pretend it was normal. This time the cold arrived first, like a blanket thrown over the whole grounds. Harry felt it in his bones before anyone shouted. Students in the courtyard slowed. Laughter died. People looked around with wide eyes. Then the sky darkened. even though it was already cloudy. Black shapes slid over the grass. More. Too many. They moved in a loose wave, like a swarm. Harry's scar burned once, sharp, then faded into a steady throb. Ron's voice shook. There's loads of them. Hermione's face went pale. That's not possible. They don't gather like that without someone calling them. Harry finished. Screams started near the steps. A first year dropped their books and began to sob like they had lost all hope in 1 second. Teachers shouted orders. McGonagall sprinted into view, cloak flying, wand out. "Inside," she yelled. "Everyone inside, now." Students rushed. Some tripped, some froze. The Dementors drifted faster. They wanted the panic. They fed on it. Harry raised his wand. Expecto Patronum. A silver stag burst out, bright and strong. It charged into the cold and pushed a few Dementors back, but it was like trying to hold back the sea with your hands. There were too many. Harry's Patronus flickered as the cold pressed harder. He heard a crack of laughter, high, excited, coming from somewhere near the edge of the chaos. Bellatrix. Harry's eyes snapped toward the broken line of hedges. Black cloaked figures appeared in the stormlight, masks pale, moving fast. Death Eaters. They weren't here to win a fair fight. They were here for something. "Harry!" Hermione shouted. She pointed. A group of Death Eaters was cutting toward the crowd of fleeing students, not attacking them, but using them as cover, using them as shields. Harry's stomach twisted with rage. Then from the steps another voice cut through the screams, a voice calm enough to shame the fear. "Hold to the walls," it said. "Keep the children behind you." Gandalf walked into the courtyard like he had stepped into a battlefield 1,000 times. He wore the same white robes, but now they looked like armor. His staff struck the stone once, solid and sharp. A ring of white light spread out from the staff across the ground. Not a blast, not an explosion. A clear line. Where the light touched, the cold stopped advancing. Students stumbled into it and gasped as warmth returned to their chests. Ron stared, mouth open. He just drew a line. Hermione grabbed a second year by the arm and pulled them into the light. "Move." The Dementors hit the edge of the ring and recoiled, hissing without mouths. Their cloaks rippled like they were burning. Harry ran toward Gandalf, Patronus still pushing, but weakening. "More are coming," Harry shouted. "I see," Gandalf said. His eyes flicked across the courtyard, tracking threats like they were pieces on a board. Dumbledore appeared at the top of the steps, wand raised, face no longer gentle. Behind him came McGonagall, Flitwick, Sprout, and Harry's stomach turned Umbridge, who looked furious that the situation was not following her rules. The Death Eaters moved. A curse streaked toward a cluster of students. Dumbledore flicked his wand. The curse hit a shield and burst into harmless sparks. "Enough," Dumbledore said, and the word felt like a door slamming. The courtyard became a storm of magic. Teachers formed protective walls. Order members appeared at the edges, Tonks, Kingsley moving like trained fighters. And above it all, the Dementors swarmed, trying to drop past shields, searching for the weakest points. Harry saw one break toward a crying girl who had fallen. He sprinted, but his legs felt heavy, like the cold was grabbing them. Gandalf moved first. He did not run like a young man. He stepped, and it felt like the space between him and the girl became shorter. He planted his staff beside her. The staff's tip flared, and a column of white light rose straight up, clean and bright, like a tower built from day. The Dementor hit it and snapped backward. The girl stopped crying, blinking like she had woken from a nightmare. Gandalf bent slightly, one hand steady on the staff. "Up," he said. "Now." She scrambled away. Harry's chest tightened with relief and anger mixed together. The Death Eaters used the Dementors like cover. They darted through the cold, aiming for gaps in the defense, not to kill, but to steal. Harry realized their direction with a jolt. They were cutting toward the castle doors, toward the inside, toward something protected. Maybe the headmaster's office. Maybe the room of requirement. Maybe, Harry. "Dumbledore!" Harry shouted. Dumbledore's eyes flicked to him, then followed Harry's look. For a split second, Harry saw Dumbledore understand 3 moves ahead. Dumbledore turned his wand, and the air in front of the doors became thick like glass. A Death Eater slammed into it mid-run and bounced back with a grunt. Snape appeared from a side corridor like a shadow given shape, moving to seal the flank. His eyes met Gandalf's for a heartbeat. There was no trust there, but there was something else. Recognition of a shared goal. Protect the castle. Gandalf's ring of light held, but the Dementors pressed harder. They were learning. They were searching for the edges, testing for weakness. Harry's Patronus flickered again. He gritted his teeth and forced it brighter. A Dementor drifted close enough that Harry felt the edge of its hunger like fingers inside his ribs. Then Gandalf's voice cut through again, louder now. Back. The word did not sound like a spell, but it hit the air like a command. The light from his staff surged outward in a wave. The Dementors closest to the line were thrown back as if a strong wind had caught them. Students gasped. Even some teachers faltered, shocked by the force. Umbridge's face went red. You can't. Gandalf did not look at her. Watch, he said, and it was not a request. A Death Eater on the far side raised a wand and fired a curse toward Gandalf's back. Harry saw it too late. Snape moved first, flicking his wand to knock the curse aside. The curse hit a stone statue and blew its head off. Gandalf turned slightly, eyes sharp. Not angry. Cold. He lifted his staff and pointed it toward the Death Eater. Not like he was aiming a weapon, but like he was showing a path. A band of light snapped out, fast and clean, and wrapped around the Death Eater's wand arm. The wand flew from the Death Eater's hand and skidded across the stone. The Death Eater froze, staring at his empty palm like it had betrayed him. Gandalf's voice carried across the chaos. Leave. The Death Eater backed away, stumbling, suddenly less brave. Bellatrix's laugh rang out again. Oh, how pretty. She darted forward, spinning and firing curses at teachers, dancing between shields like she enjoyed the danger. A curse streaked toward Harry. Harry dove. It blasted a chunk from a pillar. Bellatrix's eyes flashed when she saw him. Potter! She lunged, eager. Harry raised his wand, but the cold and chaos made his arms feel slow. Then a shadow glided down behind Bellatrix. A Dementor, drawn to the anger and fear. Bellatrix did not care. She laughed at it too. The Dementor lowered its hood, and Harry saw the empty dark where a face should be. Harry's blood went cold. Because the Dementor wasn't aiming for Bellatrix. It was aiming past her. At him. Harry tried to cast again, but the words stuck. The Dementor surged and stopped. A white barrier formed between it and Harry, thick as a wall. Gandalf stood there, not moving fast, just being in the right place at the right time. His staff was planted like a pillar. The Dementor hit the barrier and recoiled. Bellatrix hissed like a cat. Who are you? Gandalf did not answer her name with fear or anger. He answered with calm. Someone who will not let you, he said. Bellatrix's smile turned sharp. Not let me what? Gandalf's eyes met hers. Hurt children. Bellatrix threw 3 curses in a fast chain. Dumbledore blocked one. McGonagall blocked another. The third curved, trying to slip through. Gandalf lifted his staff. The curse hit the staff's light and broke apart into harmless sparks, like it had run into a truth too strong to lie through. Bellatrix's eyes widened for the first time, just a crack. Then she grinned wider. This is fun. She retreated in a whirl, not because she was beaten, but because she had learned something. Harry's scar flared hot. He staggered. He saw, in a flash, a cold room, a snake, a pale face smiling. Voldemort. Voldemort was watching through the link. Not fully, not clearly, but enough to feel the light. Enough to feel Gandalf. Harry clenched his jaw. Get out of my head, he whispered. Gandalf's hand landed on Harry's shoulder for a second, steady and warm. Harry looked up. Gandalf's eyes were fixed on the Dementor swarm, but his voice was meant for Harry alone. He is near, Gandalf said quietly. Harry swallowed. Yeah. Gandalf's grip tightened once. Not painful. Anchoring. Hold to yourself, Gandalf said. Do not give him your fear. Harry nodded, even though his hands were shaking. The Dementors pressed again, drawn by the fear of hundreds of students and the anger of battle. This time, Gandalf did not just push them back. He lifted his staff, and the light rose high, spreading over the courtyard like a dome. Inside it, the air warmed. People could breathe. Screams stopped turning into sobs. Outside it, the Dementors hovered and hissed, hungry and furious. Dumbledore's voice rang out. Kingsley, Tonks, drive them to the lake. Wizards fired Patronuses, silver animals charging like a herd. Stags, dogs, lynxes, and birds of light. But even the Patronuses struggled against the number. Gandalf's dome held. Harry saw students staring up at it, wide-eyed, like they were inside a safe bubble while the world tried to bite through. Umbridge looked like she wanted to scream. This is unauthorized magic. No one listened. That made her even angrier. At the edge of the courtyard, a Death Eater fired a green curse toward Dumbledore. Dumbledore moved like water, not dodging, but shifting the battlefield. The curse hit a statue that had been moved into the way by a simple flick, and it shattered harmlessly. Then Dumbledore raised his wand and spoke a spell that sounded like a sharp command in an old language. The ground under the Death Eater's feet rose like a hand and grabbed him, holding him in stone. Harry's eyes widened. Even in the middle of this, Dumbledore looked like he was holding back. Because Dumbledore always held back. Gandalf did not look surprised by Dumbledore's power. He looked like he had expected it. Like he had finally found someone in this world who understood what it meant to carry strength without being owned by it. But Voldemort understood too. Somewhere, far away, Voldemort felt the Dome of Light, tasted it like a new flavor. And Voldemort did not like things he could not control. The Death Eaters began to pull back. Not fleeing in panic, but retreating in a planned way, dragging one stunned prisoner, leaving others behind, using smoke and confusion. Bellatrix blew a kiss toward the courtyard, laughing as she vanished into shadow. The Dementors hovered longer, angry at losing their meal, then drifted back toward the lake in a tight, unnatural cluster, like someone was calling them away. When the last of them withdrew, the cold did not vanish at once. It faded slowly, like a bruise that refused to heal fast. Gandalf lowered his staff. The Dome of Light thinned and disappeared. Students sagged. Some cried. Some laughed in shock. Some just stared like their minds could not catch up. Harry's legs trembled. He kept his wand up anyway. Dumbledore stepped down the stairs and came to Gandalf. For a moment, they stood facing each other in the broken courtyard, surrounded by teachers, students, and wrecked stone. "Thank you," Dumbledore said simply. Gandalf's face was stern. "This will happen again." Dumbledore nodded. "Yes." Gandalf's eyes swept the crowd, landing on frightened children. "And next time," he said, "it may not be only these shadows." Dumbledore's gaze sharpened. "You believe your arrival caused this?" Gandalf did not deny it. A door was opened. Things noticed. Dark things noticed quickly. Harry's scar throbbed again, like a distant heartbeat. Dumbledore's voice went quiet. "Then we must learn what opened that door." Gandalf's hand tightened on his staff. "And we must close it." Behind them, Umbridge marched forward, face red, voice high. "Headmaster, this man must be taken to the ministry immediately. He has performed unregulated magic in front of students." Dumbledore did not even look at her at first. He looked at the ruined courtyard, at the shaken kids, at the broken statue, at the scorch marks on stone. Then he looked at Umbridge, and his voice was soft. "No." Umbridge blinked, like she had never heard the word before. Gandalf turned his head slightly toward her, eyes calm and bright. Umbridge tried again, sharper. "This is ministry business." Gandalf spoke, and his voice was still polite, but it carried like thunder. "Then your ministry is foolish," he said, "and it is losing." Umbridge's face twisted. Harry felt it again, this shift under the world. This was not just a battle on school grounds. This was politics, power, fear, control. And now there was someone here who did not fear their rules. Somewhere in the dark, Voldemort smiled without lips. He had learned 2 things. First, the stranger's light was real. Second, Hogwarts now had a new protector. That meant the game had changed. And Voldemort loved changing games when he could choose the rules. Harry looked at Gandalf standing in the ruined courtyard, staff in hand, white robes stained with rain. For the first time since Cedric died, Harry felt something else mixed with fear. Not safety, not peace, but something close, hope with sharp edges. And he knew deep down that whatever this was, it was only the beginning. Okay. The next morning, Hogwarts tried to pretend it was normal. The stone halls were still standing. The portraits still argued. The staircases still changed their minds halfway through a climb. But the courtyard scars were there for everyone to see. Broken stone, burn marks, a statue with no head, and a few places on the grass where the cold had sunk in deep, leaving it pale and stiff like it had been touched by winter. Harry walked past those spots with his hands clenched. Students whispered as he passed. Not just about the Dementors, not just about the Death Eaters, about the man in white. They say he drew a line on the ground and the Dementors couldn't cross. They say he made light without a wand. My brother says he's a ministry weapon. My mum says he's a trick and Dumbledore's hiding him. Harry hated the sound of all of it. Rumors were like smoke. They got in your lungs and made it hard to breathe. Ron leaned in close. Everyone keeps asking me what he is. What do you tell them? Harry asked. Ron shrugged. I say he's old. Hermione shot Ron a look. That's not an answer. It's the safest answer, Ron muttered. They reached the Great Hall. The noise hit them like a wave. At the staff table, Umbridge sat straighter than usual, pink cardigan neat, lips tight. She was smiling, but it was the kind of smile that looked painted on. Beside her, Dumbledore was calm, speaking quietly to Professor McGonagall. Snape sat like a black shadow, eyes scanning the room. And at the far end, a new chair had been added. Gandalf sat there, hands folded, staff resting against the table like it belonged. He looked out of place and completely unbothered by it. A few students stared like they were looking at a dragon that had decided to read a book. Gandalf noticed Harry and gave a small nod, like he was greeting an equal, not a child. That made Harry's stomach twist in a strange way. He didn't want to be treated like a child. He also didn't want the pressure of being treated like anything else. As Harry sat down, an owl swooped low and dropped a newspaper onto the table. Hermione caught it before it slid into the porridge. The front page made Harry's blood run cold. Ministry warns of unregistered wizard at Hogwarts. There was a moving picture of the courtyard, taken from a distance, blurry and tilted like the photographer had been shaking. In the center, a pale dome of light could be seen. Under it, tiny dark shapes moved. Hermione's face went pale. They're using it. Ron leaned in. Read it. Harry didn't want to. He did anyway. The article said Hogwarts had experienced an incident caused by unknown magical influence. It claimed Dumbledore was refusing cooperation. It hinted the new arrival might be connected to foreign dark forces. It praised the ministry for swift protective measures. And it quoted Umbridge calling herself a steady hand in uncertain times. Hermione's fingers crumpled the edge of the paper. They're lying. Harry's scar prickled. Not pain, just irritation. Like even his scar was tired of lies. At the staff table, Umbridge lifted her voice, sweet as honey. Students, she said, I understand some of you may have been frightened by recent events. I want to reassure you that the ministry is taking every step to protect you. A low murmur rolled through the hall. Umbridge's eyes swept the room and landed on Gandalf. Her smile widened, as if she had caught him doing something wrong. And of course, she added, any unusual magical persons present in the castle will be handled with proper care and proper oversight. Gandalf did not look at her. He buttered a piece of toast slowly, like her words had no power over him at all. Umbridge's smile twitched. Harry almost wanted to laugh. Almost. But then he saw the way some students stared at Gandalf with fear, not awe. Fear. And Harry understood the problem. Even good power scared people when they didn't understand it. After breakfast, notices appeared on the walls. All students must report any strange magic or strange persons to the High Inquisitor immediately. Hermione read the notice out loud in a voice that shook with anger. Strange persons. Ron scowled. She's talking about him like he's a pest. Harry stared at the paper until the words blurred. She wants him in a cage. Behind them, footsteps sounded. Snape's voice slid into the air. If you three are finished reading Ministry propaganda, perhaps you will remember you have classes. Harry turned. Snape's eyes flicked briefly to the notice, then away. Hermione said carefully, "Professor, isn't it wrong?" Snape's mouth curled. Wrong is a child's word for a world that does not care what you think. Harry's hands tightened. So we just let her do it? Snape's eyes sharpened, and for a second Harry saw something hot behind them. Anger, not at Harry, at something bigger. Then it was gone. Snape leaned closer, voice low so only they could hear. You watch, you listen, you survive. Ron muttered. Brilliant advice. Snape ignored him. And if you choose to be foolish, he added, be foolish quietly. He swept away. Hermione's jaw was tight. He's terrified of the Ministry. Harry shook his head. No, he's terrified of what happens when people like her get control. That afternoon, Dumbledore called a meeting. Not with the whole school, not with loud speeches, with the people who mattered. Harry was not invited. Neither was Hermione or Ron. That alone made Harry feel sick. He was used to being left out. He still hated it. But later, when Harry passed the open door of a classroom and glanced inside, he saw it. Dumbledore, McGonagall, Snape, Kingsley, Shacklebolt, and a few Order members. And Gandalf. They were talking like generals, but without maps. Their weapons were words and plans. Harry didn't hear much before McGonagall shut the door with a sharp flick of her wand. But he caught one line. Dumbledore's voice, quiet and heavy. She will try to claim him. Gandalf's voice answered, calm and certain. Then she will fail. Harry walked away fast, heart pounding. Because it was one thing to fight Death Eaters. It was another thing to fight a smiling woman with papers and stamps and laws. That night, Harry lay in bed, staring at the dark ceiling. His scar ached faintly like a bruise. He could not stop seeing the dome of light. Could not stop hearing Umbridge's voice saying proper oversight. Could not stop thinking about Voldemort. Harry shut his eyes and tried to sleep. He fell into a dream like falling into cold water. He was in a stone room. A snake moved across the floor. The air smelled of damp and rot. Voldemort stood by a table, long fingers resting on a silver goblet like it was a pet. Red eyes lifted, and then Harry felt Voldemort's attention hooking onto something else. Not Harry. Something bright. Something old. Voldemort smiled, slow and pleased, like he had found a new lock to pick. A door, Voldemort whispered. Harry tried to move. He couldn't. Voldemort leaned closer, voice soft as poison. If he is a door, he said, I will make him open. Harry woke with a jolt, breath ripping in and out of his chest. Ron was snoring. Seamus muttered in his sleep. Harry pressed a hand to his scar until it stopped throbbing. In the dark, he heard a soft tapping at the window. An owl perched there, blinking. Harry got up, opened the window, and took the letter tied to its leg. The handwriting was neat and sharp. Potter, you will come to my office tomorrow at 7, alone. Umbridge. Harry stared at the letter until the ink seemed to crawl. He folded it slowly. Then he looked out into the night and wondered how many other letters like this were flying right now. Hermione was in the library the next day like she was trying to build a wall out of books. Harry told her about the letter. Her face tightened. You can't go alone, she whispered fiercely. I have to, Harry whispered back. If I don't, she'll make it worse. Ron looked sick. She's going to use that pen again. Hermione's eyes flashed. We should tell Dumbledore. Harry shook his head. He already knows what she is. Hermione's fingers gripped the edge of the table hard enough to turn her knuckles white. Then she looked past Harry, eyes narrowing. Harry, she said softly, look. Harry turned. Gandalf stood between tall shelves, speaking quietly with Madame Pince. Madame Pince looked like she wanted to throw him out, but she also looked like she was afraid to try. Gandalf held a small stack of books in his hands, thick and old. He listened as Madame Pince hissed rules at him. Gandalf nodded patiently, then held up a book and asked something. Madame Pince pointed sharply toward a corner table like she was banishing him. Gandalf walked over and sat down with the books like he was settling in for a long siege. Hermione's eyes went wide, and Harry knew that look. She had an idea. Hermione stood up and walked over before Harry could stop her. Harry and Ron followed, trying not to draw attention. Hermione stopped at Gandalf's table. "Sir," she said, voice polite but urgent. "May I ask, why are you in the library?" Gandalf looked up. His face softened when he saw it was her. "I am trying to understand your world," he said simply. "The shape of it, the rules that hold it, the cracks where dark things slip through." Hermione nodded fast. That's exactly what I've been doing." Ron blurted. "Are you going to blast Umbridge with sunlight?" Hermione shot Ron a look. Ron shrugged helplessly. "Worth asking." Gandalf's mouth twitched. "She is not a creature you defeat with light." Harry sat down carefully. "She's got power without fighting." Gandalf's gaze sharpened. "Then she is more dangerous than many warriors." Hermione leaned closer, voice lower. "Sir, you said you are called Gandalf." "Yes." Hermione swallowed. "That name. It exists in my world too." Ron frowned. "What do you mean?" Hermione reached into her bag with shaking hands and pulled out a thin, worn book. Not a wizarding book, a Muggle book. Harry recognized it because Hermione had shown it to him years ago, smiling, when they were still young enough to have time for silly things. The cover read, "The Lord of the Rings." Hermione held it like it was fragile. "My parents had this at home," she whispered, "and there's a wizard in it. A wizard with a staff. He's called Gandalf." Ron stared like Hermione had pulled out a live bomb. "You're joking." Hermione shook her head, eyes bright with fear and wonder. "I'm not. It's a story, a Muggle story. And now you're here, with the same name, the same look." Harry felt his stomach drop. It was one thing to believe Gandalf was from another world. It was another thing to realize his world might have been written down as a book in theirs. Gandalf looked at the cover, then at Hermione. He did not look angry. He looked sad. "A tale," he said quietly. Hermione's voice trembled. "How is that possible?" Gandalf's eyes drifted to the high windows of the library where rain tapped softly. "Sometimes," he said, "truth leaks into dreams. Sometimes it leaks into stories. And sometimes a door opens where it should not." Harry's throat tightened. "So you really are." Gandalf lifted one hand gently, stopping him. "Names are not cages," he said. "Do not try to trap me in your pages." Hermione nodded quickly, cheeks flushed. "I'm sorry. I don't understand." Gandalf's gaze was kind, but firm. "You do not need to understand the whole river to know it is deep." Ron whispered, "This is mental." Hermione clutched the book tighter. "If this is real, then your enemies, do they exist too?" Gandalf's eyes darkened slightly. "Not here," he said. "Not yet. But darkness recognizes light. That is the danger." Harry felt his scar prick, like it agreed. Hermione glanced around and lowered her voice. "Sir, what do we do?" Gandalf looked at the three of them like they were not children in his eyes, like they were soldiers he didn't want to recruit, but had to respect. "You stay alive," he said. "You keep your friends close, and you do not let fear tell you what is true." Hermione swallowed. "And the door?" Gandalf's hand rested on the cover of Hermione's Muggle book for a second, very gently. "We find where it opened," he said, "and we close it." Harry's heart beat faster. "Can we help?" Gandalf's eyes held Harry's. "You already are." At 7 o'clock that evening, Harry walked toward Umbridge's office with his stomach tight. He wasn't alone. Not openly. Hermione and Ron followed at a distance, hiding behind suits of armor and peeking around corners. They couldn't stop Harry going, but they could make sure he didn't vanish. The corridor felt colder near Umbridge's door. Harry hated that. He knocked. "Come in," Umbridge sang. The office was pink and neat, and wrong. Plates with moving kittens on the walls, lace doilies, a smell like sickly perfume. Umbridge sat at her desk with a stack of papers. On the desk, Harry saw it. The black quill. His throat tightened. Umbridge smiled. "Harry Potter, do sit down." Harry did not sit. Umbridge's smile tightened. "Do sit." Harry sat. His hand hovered near his wand, but he knew the rules of this kind of fight. If he reached for it, she would have him arrested. Or worse. Umbridge folded her hands. "Now, Harry," she said sweetly, "I hear you were very close to the incident in the courtyard." Harry stared at her. "I was there." Umbridge nodded as if she was pleased. "And you witnessed the unregistered individual using highly unusual magic." Harry said nothing. Umbridge leaned forward. "Tell me what he is." Harry's heart beat hard. "I don't know." Umbridge's eyes sharpened. "Oh, but you must have an idea." Harry kept his face still. "He said his name is Gandalf." Umbridge smiled wider. "Gandalf," she repeated, like she was tasting it. No surname, no ministry history, no wand registry. Harry's fingers clenched. Umbridge's voice became softer, more dangerous. "You will write a statement. You will describe his magic. You will tell me where he sleeps, who he speaks to, what he is planning." Harry swallowed. "No." Umbridge blinked like she couldn't believe it. Then her smile returned, bright and cruel. "Oh yes." She picked up the black quill and slid it across the desk toward him. "Right," she said. Harry stared at it. His scar prickled. His hands trembled with anger. Then the office door opened. Umbridge jerked upright, furious. "Who dares?" Gandalf stepped in. He did not shout. He did not threaten. He simply entered like someone who refused to be stopped. Umbridge's face turned red. "You cannot be here. This is my office." Gandalf's eyes moved to the quill, then back to Umbridge. His voice was calm. "Put it down," he said. Umbridge laughed, high and sharp. "This is ministry discipline." Gandalf's staff tapped the floor once. The sound was not loud, but it filled the room like a bell. The kittens on the plates froze mid-bounce. The quill on the desk stopped moving, as if it had forgotten how. Umbridge's smile flickered. Gandalf looked at Harry. "Stand." Harry stood so fast his chair scraped. Umbridge shot to her feet. You cannot interfere." Gandalf turned his gaze back to her. "You carve pain into children," he said, voice steady. "And you call it order." Umbridge's eyes bulged. "How dare you?" Gandalf's face did not change. "I have dared worse than you." For a moment, the room felt smaller. Not because Gandalf grew, because Umbridge suddenly seemed weak. Not powerless, but small. Umbridge snapped, trying to regain control. "Guards!" No one came. Gandalf's eyes flicked to the door, then back. "Your walls are thick," he said, "but they do not obey you the way you think." Harry realized what that meant. The castle. Hogwarts did not like Umbridge, and it might like Gandalf more than it liked her. Umbridge's breath came fast. "You will be reported to the ministry." Gandalf nodded once. "Good." He placed one hand lightly on the desk and pushed the quill away from Harry without touching it directly. It slid as if it was afraid of his hand. Gandalf looked at Harry again. "Come." Harry didn't hesitate. As Harry and Gandalf walked out, Umbridge's voice rose behind them, high and shaking. "This will not end here. I will have you both under ministry control." Gandalf did not turn around, but his voice carried back, calm as stone. "It ends," he said, "when you stop." Harry's chest felt tight as they moved down the corridor. How did you know?" Gandalf's eyes stayed forward. "I have seen her kind in many halls," he said. "They hide behind soft words and sharp tools." Harry swallowed. "She'll come after you." Gandalf nodded. Yes. Harry's scar throbbed. And Voldemort is watching. Gandalf's eyes flicked to him. I know. Harry looked up at him. How? Gandalf's voice lowered. Because I can feel the edge of him, he said. Like smoke on the wind. Harry's stomach twisted. He wants to use you. Gandalf's face stayed calm. Then he will try. Harry wanted to ask more, but Gandalf lifted a hand. Not here, Gandalf said. Walls have ears, and some ears belong to people who would sell your words. They turned a corner, and an owl swooped down and nearly hit Gandalf in the head. It flapped, offended, then landed on a suit of armor and hooted loudly. Gandalf stared at it. The owl stared back. Harry heard Ron's muffled laughter from somewhere behind a statue. Gandalf sighed, deeply, like the universe was mocking him. Brave little bird, he said very seriously, but still, not an eagle. Harry's mouth twitched despite everything. For a second, the war felt less heavy. Then Harry's scar burned hard, and the moment snapped like a twig. Gandalf's hand shot out and caught Harry's shoulder. Harry's vision swam. He saw a dark corridor, a stone archway, a curtain that fluttered even with no wind. He heard whispers. Not words, just a pull. Gandalf's voice was close and sharp. What did you see? Harry's breath came fast. A doorway. A curtain. I don't know. Gandalf's eyes hardened. A veil. Harry blinked. What? Gandalf stared ahead like he could see through walls. There are places where the world is thin, he said. Your Dark One is reaching for it. Harry swallowed. The Department of Mysteries. Hermione and Ron appeared, pale and wide-eyed. Hermione whispered, Harry, your face. Harry shook his head, trying to clear it. He's planning something. Somewhere with a veil. A door. Gandalf's staff tightened in his grip. Then we do not wait. He looked at Hermione. You said you know books. Hermione nodded quickly. Yes. Gandalf's voice was firm. Find me the oldest wards of this castle, the oldest cracks, the places that were sealed for a reason. Hermione swallowed hard. I can try. Gandalf looked at all three of them. And you, he said, will not face this alone. Not again. Harry's chest tightened. We never wanted to. Gandalf nodded. Good, he said. Then we begin. Far away, Voldemort stood in silence, fingers steepled. Lucius Malfoy knelt on the cold stone, head bowed, breathing shallowly. Bellatrix stood beside him, smiling like she wished there were blood on the floor. My lord, Lucius said carefully, the light is real. It drove the Dementors back, it blocked curses. Voldemort's eyes half-lidded, almost bored. I felt it. Bellatrix's voice sang. It was beautiful. Voldemort's gaze flicked to her, and her smile turned worshipful. Voldemort spoke softly. Dumbledore has brought a shield to a wand fight. Lucius swallowed. We can kill him, my lord. Voldemort tilted his head. Can you? Lucius hesitated. Voldemort's lip curled. No, not yet. He paced slowly, like a snake thinking. Power, Voldemort murmured, is not only force, it is the right pressure in the right place. He stopped and looked down at Lucius. Does he have a weakness? Voldemort asked. Lucius's voice shook. He cares about the children. He stepped between them and death. Voldemort smiled. That is not weakness, Bellatrix hissed, offended. Voldemort's smile widened. It is a door. Bellatrix's eyes gleamed. Voldemort's voice became gentle, almost kind. We do not fight him like a duel, he said. We pull him. We offer him something he cannot ignore. Lucius swallowed. What could we offer such a being? Voldemort's red eyes glittered. Purpose, he whispered. A promise that he can end the war fast. A promise that children will never fear again. Bellatrix shivered with joy. Yes. Voldemort's gaze drifted to the darkness above, where he imagined a veil fluttering. And if he is truly a door, Voldemort said, voice quiet, then I will open more than a school. He lifted a hand. and the air seemed to respond like it feared him. "Begin," he said. Lucius bowed lower. Bellatrix laughed softly, like a bell in a graveyard. And somewhere, deep beneath the world, something thin trembled. Something listened. The first step was not a battle. It was homework. Hermione spent the next 2 nights in the library, until her eyes went red. She dragged Ron with her to carry stacks. Harry came too, but he couldn't focus for long. His scar kept prickling, and every shadow felt like it might hide a Dementor. Gandalf joined them after curfew, moving through the library like the rules did not apply to him. Madame Pince tried to stop him once. She opened her mouth. Gandalf looked at her calmly. Madame Pince shut her mouth and stormed away, muttering. Ron whispered, "He's the only person she's ever backed down from." Hermione spread old books across the table. Castle plans, ward notes, old school records, stories about founders, and books about places that held ancient magic. Gandalf did not read like Hermione read. Hermione attacked books. She hunted facts. Gandalf listened to them, like each page had a voice under the ink. He placed his palm on old parchment and closed his eyes. Harry watched, uneasy. "What are you doing?" Gandalf's voice was soft, listening for the crack. Hermione swallowed. "You really think your arrival made the world thin?" Gandalf's eyes opened. The tear was not gentle, he said. It pulled and it scraped, like a knife cutting cloth. Ron grimaced. "Great." Hermione pointed to a passage. "Hogwarts has layers of protection," she said. "Some of them are older than the Ministry. Some might be older than the school itself." Gandalf nodded. "Old magic remembers," he said, "and old magic resents being pushed." Harry leaned in. "So where's the weakest point?" Hermione hesitated. "There are places the castle doesn't like to talk about." Ron frowned. "The castle talks?" Hermione ignored him. Hidden corridors, sealed doors. And, she lowered her voice, the forbidden forest, the lake, places near creatures and old spirits. Gandalf's gaze went distant. "And places where death has been invited," he said. Harry's stomach tightened. He saw the dream again. The veil. The fluttering curtain. "The Department of Mysteries," Harry whispered. Hermione stared. "Harry, that's in the Ministry." Harry nodded. "I saw it, in the link." Ron's face went pale. "So Voldemort's going to the Ministry?" Harry's scar prickled again like a warning. Gandalf's voice was firm. "Not yet," he said. "First he will test the thin places closer to him." Hermione's eyes sharpened. "Like Hogwarts." Gandalf nodded once. Harry's chest felt tight. "So what do we do?" Gandalf looked at the 3 of them, and for a second Harry saw something like pain in his eyes. Because Gandalf did not want to use children. But this world already did. "We find where the tear echoes," Gandalf said. "We seal it before it becomes a road." Hermione swallowed. "How?" Gandalf touched his staff. "Stone remembers," he said, "and I remember how to speak to stone." Ron muttered, "That's normal." Hermione's hands trembled slightly as she pushed her hair back. "We'll need to move without Umbridge noticing." Harry let out a short laugh with no humor. "Good luck." Hermione's eyes flashed. "We have been doing that all year." Gandalf tilted his head. "Then you are already trained." They made the plan in whispers. Not a hero speech. Not a grand vow. A simple agreement between 4 people who knew the cost of failing. Harry's scar throbbed once, like something far away heard them. And outside the library windows, an owl perched and stared in, as if it wanted to join. Ron stared back. "What?" The owl hooted once. Gandalf glanced up, unimpressed. Still not an eagle. The owl fluffed its feathers in offense. Hermione pressed a hand to her mouth to hide a smile. Then she whispered, "Tomorrow night." Gandalf nodded. Tomorrow night. The next evening, Hermione led them through a hallway that looked ordinary unless you knew where the stone had been patched. She tapped 3 bricks in a pattern. The wall shifted like a sigh, and a narrow passage opened. Ron stared. "How do you know all of these?" Hermione whispered, "I read." Harry followed, wand ready. Gandalf walked last, Staff quiet. The passage smelled like dust and cold stone. It sloped downward. Harry's scar prickled. They reached a small door half hidden behind a hanging tapestry. Hermione pulled it aside. On the wood was a mark, faint like an old burn. A line, a curve, a shape that made Harry's stomach twist. Gandalf stepped closer. His face tightened. "This is not your magic," he said. Hermione whispered, "Then what is it?" Gandalf raised his staff but did not touch the door. "It is the scrape," he said, "the place where the cloth tore." Harry swallowed. "So this is it, the thin place?" Gandalf's eyes narrowed. "A thin place," he corrected. "Not the only one." Ron whispered, "How many are there?" Gandalf's voice was quiet. "Enough." Hermione's face went tight. "We have to seal it." Gandalf nodded. "Yes." He placed his hand flat against the stone beside the door. Not the wood, the stone. Harry felt it then, faint but real, a hum under the air, like the castle was holding a note too low for most ears. Gandalf's voice dropped to a whisper, and it was not English. It was not Latin. It was something older, shaped like a promise. The hum changed. The air thickened. The mark on the door glowed faintly, like a coal waking up. Hermione's eyes went wide. "It's responding." Harry's scar burned sharply. He staggered, catching himself on the wall. Luna Lovegood stepped out of a side corridor like she had been there the whole time. Hermione jumped. "Luna!" Luna blinked. "Hello," she whispered cheerfully. "I thought you might need an extra set of eyes." Ron hissed, "How did you—" "I followed the feeling," Luna said simply, like that explained everything. Gandalf studied her for a second, then nodded once, accepting her like he accepted a sudden storm. "You see strange things," Gandalf said. Luna smiled faintly. "Yes." Harry's scar throbbed. He looked at the door again. The glow was stronger now. Gandalf's hand lifted slightly from the stone, and the door opened by itself, not swinging wide, just enough to show darkness. Cold slid out like breath from a grave. Hermione's voice shook. "That's not supposed to happen." Gandalf's eyes hardened. "It is happening because something is pulling from the other side." Harry's mouth went dry. "Voldemort." Gandalf's voice was low, perhaps, or something that smells him. They stepped through. The space beyond was not a room students used. It was an old corridor, carved rougher than the rest of the castle, like it came from an older time. The stones were uneven. The air smelled like damp earth. Their footsteps echoed. Neville Longbottom waited there, pale but steady, wand in hand. Hermione stared. "Neville?" Neville swallowed. "Ginny said you were sneaking out," he whispered. I thought you might need help." Harry's chest tightened. Neville was scared. Harry could see it. But Neville was still here. Gandalf looked at Neville with quiet respect. "Good," he said. "You came." Neville's cheeks flushed. I didn't want anyone else to get hurt." Gandalf nodded once. "That is courage." They moved deeper, following the cold. The corridor narrowed, then opened into a stone chamber. In the middle stood an archway, half buried in rubble, like it had been sealed and then forgotten. A torn curtain of air hung inside it, not cloth, not mist, but something that fluttered without wind. Harry's breath caught. It was like his dream. Hermione whispered, "This is inside Hogwarts." Ron's voice shook. "Why is there a curtain in an arch?" Luna tilted her head. "It's like a doorway that never sleeps." Gandalf's face was hard now. "This is not meant for children," he said. Harry's scar burned. The air around the arch rippled. A sound came through. Not a voice. A thin, hungry sigh. Hermione's hands trembled. "Something is coming." Gandalf lifted his staff. "Behind me," he ordered quietly. They obeyed without thinking. The curtain fluttered harder. The cold hit like a wave. Then the shadow came through. It was not a Dementor. It did not float like a cloak. It stepped. It had the shape of a person in a long, torn robe, but the robe was made of darkness, not cloth. Its hands were thin and wrong. Its head was bowed, and where a face should be, there was only deeper shadow. The room felt smaller the moment it arrived, like the air was trying to hide. Ron made a sound like he was about to be sick. Hermione whispered, "What is that?" Luna said softly, "A hungry thing." The creature lifted its head. Harry felt it look at him without eyes. His scar screamed. He staggered back, heart pounding. The creature moved one step closer. The stones under its feet frosted. It did not rush. It did not need to. It had patience like winter. Gandalf stepped forward, staff raised. "You do not belong here," Gandalf said. The creature's head tilted. A whisper slid into the room, not into ears, but into thoughts. Not words. A feeling. Hunger. And then another feeling, sharp as a hook. Recognition. Hermione gasped. It senses something." Gandalf's voice was hard. "It smells a broken soul," he said. Harry's stomach dropped. The creature took another step, and Harry's scar burned like fire. It wasn't hunting Gandalf. It was hunting Harry, or what was inside Harry. Harry raised his wand with shaking hands. "Expecto Patronum." The stag burst out, bright and strong, filling the chamber with silver light. The creature recoiled, but it did not flee like a Dementor. It stayed at the edge of the Patronus glow, head tilted as if studying it. Then it lifted its hand. The Patronus flickered. Harry's breath caught. "What?" Hermione shouted. "Harry, it's resisting." Gandalf's eyes narrowed. "It is older than your charms," he said. The creature's hand moved again, slow and careful. Harry's Patronus sputtered like a candle in wind. Harry's chest tightened with panic. Neville stepped forward, voice shaking but loud. "No!" He fired a stunning spell at the creature. It hit the shadow and vanished like a stone thrown into deep water. Ron yelled, "That did nothing." Hermione's voice was fast and sharp. "It's not a body. It's like a spirit," Gandalf finished. He lifted his staff high. The tip flared with white light, brighter than in the courtyard, bright enough to throw hard shadows on the stone walls. The creature hissed without a mouth. It stepped back. Harry's Patronus steadied for a second, like it was being held up by something stronger. Gandalf's voice filled the chamber, deep and clear. "You will not take him." The creature froze. Then it did something that made Harry's skin crawl. It turned its head, away from Harry, toward the archway, like it was listening to someone else. Hermione's eyes widened. "It's being called," Luna whispered. "Like a dog on a string." Gandalf's gaze sharpened. "Yes," he said, "and the hand holding the string is not in this room." Harry's scar burned again, and Harry felt Voldemort's presence like a cold finger at the back of his skull. Voldemort was pulling, not on Harry, on the creature, using it, testing the door. Ron's voice cracked. "He's controlling it?" Gandalf's jaw tightened. "He is trying." The creature took one step back toward the archway, then another, like it wanted to retreat, but also wanted to strike. It reached out again, toward Harry. Harry's Patronus faltered. Hermione grabbed Harry's sleeve. "We need to close it. We need to seal the arch." Gandalf nodded. "Hermione," he said, "your runes. Now." Hermione's eyes went wide. I didn't bring..." Gandalf snapped. "Use what you have." Hermione swallowed hard. She yanked parchment from her bag, ink, and a quill. Her hands shook, but she moved fast. She scribbled symbols like her life depended on it. Because it did. Luna dropped to her knees and began placing stones from the rubble in a rough circle, humming softly like she was setting a table. Ron stared. "Luna, what are you doing?" "Making a shape," Luna said. "Shapes matter." Neville stepped between Harry and the creature, wand up, even though he knew his spells weren't doing much. Harry stared at Neville. "Neville." Neville's voice shook. "I'm not moving." Harry's throat tightened. Gandalf's light pressed harder, building like a wall. The creature hissed and lifted both hands. The air went cold enough that Harry's breath fogged. The parchment in Hermione's hands stiffened. The creature's shadow stretched toward the circle Luna was building, like it wanted to break it. Gandalf's voice boomed, and for a second it sounded like thunder trapped in a man. Back. The light surged. The creature slammed into the stone wall behind it as if it had been shoved by an invisible giant. It crumpled, not falling like a body, but folding in on itself like smoke punched into a corner. Hermione shouted, "Harry, hold your Patronus steady." Harry clenched his jaw and forced the stag brighter. His arms trembled. His vision blurred. He felt Voldemort's laughter at the edge of his mind, distant and pleased. Harry hissed, "Get out!" Gandalf's hand touched Harry's shoulder again, warm and grounding. Harry's breath steadied. The stag steadied too. Hermione slapped the parchment onto the floor at the edge of Luna's stone circle. The symbols glowed faintly. Ron stared. "Did you just—" Hermione barked. "No time." She dragged another parchment out and slapped it down. The circle brightened. The creature writhed, pressed against the wall by Gandalf's light, trying to reach through the circle. It couldn't. Not yet. Gandalf stepped forward slowly, never lowering his staff. He moved to the circle and planted the staff at its center. The light from the staff poured down into the runes, filling them like water filling cracks. The circle flared white. The creature screamed without a mouth. The air shook. The curtain inside the arch fluttered wildly, like a flag in a hurricane. For a split second, Harry saw something through it. Not Hogwarts. Not the corridor. A vast dark emptiness with a single distant pressure in it, like an eye that did not blink. Harry's blood ran cold. Luna whispered, eyes wide, "Something is looking back." Gandalf's voice went tight. "Do not look," he warned. But it was too late. Harry had already seen it. The creature thrashed inside the circle, then suddenly went still. Its head turned toward Gandalf, and in Harry's mind, a whisper formed into a thought that was not his. White. Not a compliment. A name. A target. Gandalf's eyes hardened like steel. "You know me," Gandalf said quietly. The creature's shadow rippled. Then it spoke without speaking. The room filled with a feeling, sharp and clear. "Split." Hermione gasped. "It's talking about." Harry's scar burned like fire. Gandalf's voice was low. "Yes," he said. "It is smelling what should not be in you." Harry's stomach dropped. Ron looked between them, panicked. "Harry, what's inside you?" Harry's voice came out rough. "A piece of Voldemort." Silence slammed into the room. Neville's face went white. Hermione's eyes filled with horror and sadness like she had been punched. Luna's expression softened, like she had always suspected. Gandalf did not look shocked. He looked furious. Not at Harry. At the act. At the cruelty. "Your enemy cut his own soul," Gandalf said, voice cold. "And he hid it in a child." Harry swallowed hard. "Yeah." The creature jerked suddenly, like something had yanked its chain. The circle flickered. The runes trembled. Hermione cried out, "It's being pulled back!" Gandalf planted both feet and pressed his staff down. The light flared brighter, and the circle steadied again. "Not yet," Gandalf said through clenched teeth. The creature writhed, dragged by an invisible pull toward the archway, but held by the circle. It was like watching a rope pulled from both ends. Ron yelled, "Can we just destroy it?" Gandalf's voice snapped. "If I destroy it wrongly, it tears the cloth wider." Hermione's hands shook. "Then what do we do?" Gandalf's eyes were fixed on the creature. "We bind it," he said. "We learn from it." The creature's shadow twisted, and for a second it looked almost human, like a person drowning. Then it stilled again, and the air filled with one last feeling, a cold promise. More. Harry's heart hammered. Gandalf's jaw tightened. "Yes," he said, as if answering it. "That is what I fear." He lifted his staff, and the light sharpened into a tighter, smaller cage around the creature. The runes dimmed from blazing white to a steady glow. The creature was contained, not destroyed, not free. Contained like a storm held in a jar. Hermione's breath shook. "We did it." Gandalf's voice was quiet. "We delayed it," he corrected. Harry's scar throbbed again, and Harry felt the link snap back like a stretched cord released. Voldemort's presence faded, but not before Harry sensed one last thing from him. Interest. Hunger. A plan forming. Gandalf turned toward the archway, face hard. He raised his staff and spoke softly in that old language again. The curtain fluttered, then slowed. The cold eased slightly. The arch did not close. It was still there, still thin, but it was quieter. For now. Ron's voice was shaky. So, we just found a horror doorway under the school. Hermione shot him a look. Yes. Ron swallowed. Brilliant. Neville's shoulders sagged as the fear finally caught up to him. What now? Gandalf looked at the contained creature, then at Harry. His eyes softened slightly. We tell the one who can move pieces on this board, Gandalf said. Harry swallowed. Dumbledore. Gandalf nodded. Yes. Luna stepped closer to the circle and stared at the creature with calm eyes. It's lonely, she said softly. Hermione blinked. Luna. It's still dangerous, Luna added, as if she could hear Hermione's thoughts. But it's lonely. Gandalf's face tightened. Lonely things can still bite, he said, especially when they are hungry. They moved back through the corridor quietly, faster now, every sound too loud. Harry kept glancing back, half expecting the archway to call his name. When they reached the secret passage entrance, they froze. Umbridge stood there, flanked by 2 ministry wizards with stern faces. Her smile was bright, and it did not reach her eyes. Well, Umbridge sang, "What do we have here?" Hermione's stomach dropped. Ron whispered, "We're dead." Umbridge stepped forward, eyes scanning them, then landing on Gandalf like she had been waiting all night. You, she said sweetly, and children, out of bed, out of bounds, plotting no doubt. Gandalf's face was calm. Move. Umbridge's smile sharpened. Oh no. I think you will come with me. The ministry wizard raised his wand. Gandalf's staff tapped the stone once. The torch flames along the corridor flickered, then steadied. The air tightened. Not a blast. A warning. Umbridge's smile faltered for half a second. Gandalf's voice was low. You do not understand what you stand near, he said. Umbridge recovered quickly. I understand authority. Gandalf's eyes flashed. Then you understand nothing. The corridor behind Umbridge groaned. A suit of armor stepped forward by itself and blocked the hallway. Umbridge shrieked, "What is that doing?" Another suit of armor moved, then another, clanking into place like soldiers forming a wall. Hogwarts was choosing. Hermione's eyes widened. The castle. Gandalf said softly, "Yes." Umbridge's face twisted. "Stop this at once." Gandalf did not look at the armors. He looked only at Umbridge. "We are leaving," he said. Umbridge's voice went sharp. "You will be arrested." Gandalf took one step forward. The ministry wizard flinched without meaning to. Gandalf did not raise his staff. He did not cast a visible spell. But suddenly, the corridor felt like it had become heavier for everyone except Gandalf and the children. Like the stone itself had decided Umbridge should not move quickly. Umbridge's heels scraped as she tried to step forward and found her feet sticking slightly. Her eyes widened with outrage. Gandalf walked past her calmly. The armors shifted aside for him like doors opening. Harry, Ron, Hermione, Neville, and Luna slipped through behind him, hearts pounding. Umbridge's shriek followed them. "This is treason. This is defiance of the ministry." Gandalf's voice carried back, calm and final. "This is protection," he said. They didn't stop running until they reached a hallway with bright torches and normal portraits. Harry's lungs burned. Hermione bent over, hands on her knees, shaking. Ron leaned against the wall, pale. "I'm going to be sick." Neville whispered. "She saw us." Luna said dreamily, "She always sees, but she never understands." Gandalf stood still, breathing evenly, like a man who had just stepped away from a small annoyance, not an arrest. Then he turned and looked toward the headmaster's office. His face was hard again. "This is bigger," he said quietly. "The door is inside your school. and your enemy has tasted it." Harry swallowed. "And that thing we trapped?" It said more. Gandalf nodded once. "Yes." Hermione's voice shook. How many could come through? Gandalf's eyes were distant, as if he was looking at a battlefield far away. "Enough to break this place," he said. Harry's stomach twisted. Gandalf looked down at Harry, voice softer but no less firm. "And your enemy," he added, "will try to use it before we seal it properly." Harry whispered, "Voldemort." Gandalf nodded. Then, as if the universe could not resist, an owl swooped down the hallway, landed on a nearby railing, and hooted loudly at Gandalf. It held a small note in its beak. Gandalf stared at it like it was a rude messenger from fate. He took the note. "Read it." His face did not change. Then he sighed. "What?" Ron croaked. Gandalf held up the note. It was from Dumbledore. "We must speak at once." Ron swallowed. "At least it's not from an eagle." Gandalf shot Ron a look so tired it was almost funny. "I asked for an eagle," Gandalf said flatly. The owl hooted again, offended. Hermione gave a tiny, shaky laugh that sounded like relief breaking through fear. Then Gandalf turned, and the humor left him like a door shutting. "Come," he said, and they followed him toward the only man in the castle who could carry a secret this heavy without dropping it. Because now Hogwarts wasn't just a school in a war. It was a doorway, and somewhere beyond it, something old had opened its eyes. "It's Oph, now they say." A week passed, then another. Hogwarts stayed tense, but it also changed in small ways that were hard to explain to anyone who had not felt the dome of light in their own lungs. Gandalf did not become a teacher with a classroom and a timetable. He did something quieter. He walked the castle at night. He put his hand on cold stone and listened. He stood in corridors that made Harry's scar itch and waited until the feeling eased. He spoke with Dumbledore in long, private talks that left both men looking more tired afterward. In the evenings, he sometimes sat with the students who trained in secret, not like a drill sergeant, not like a show-off, like a guard who had seen too many young faces disappear. "Do not cast in panic," he told them. "Panic makes your hands sloppy. Fear makes your eyes narrow." Hermione wrote every word down, then tried to pretend she wasn't writing. Ron watched like he was waiting for Gandalf to pull a rabbit out of a hat. Neville stood straighter every time Gandalf nodded at him. Harry did not know what to feel. He felt safer with Gandalf nearby. He also felt exposed, like Voldemort could see the light and aim at it. Umbridge tried to tighten the rules until they choked. More decrees appeared, more inspections, more sweet smiles with sharp teeth. But Hogwarts pushed back in its own strange way. Doors stuck when Umbridge tried to enter certain corridors. Staircases shifted to take her the long way. Peeves started accidentally, dropping things near her feet. And then there were the owls. Gandalf kept asking for Eagle Post with a serious face, even after Hermione explained it 3 different times. Each time an owl landed near him, he stared at it like it was a bad joke. One evening, Harry watched an owl drop a letter onto Gandalf's shoulder. Gandalf looked at it. The owl hooted proudly. Gandalf sighed. "Brave little bird," he said, then added, "but still not an eagle." The owl pecked his robe in insult. Ron snorted so hard milk came out his nose. It should have felt normal. But Harry's scar still itched like a warning that never slept. Then came the offer. It arrived as a message wrapped in politeness. A silver cup appeared on Dumbledore's desk one morning, clean and shining, with a strip of parchment inside. No owl, no flue ash, just there, like it had always belonged. Dumbledore did not touch it at first. He stared at it for a long time, eyes unreadable. Gandalf stood beside him, staff in hand, face hard. Harry was not supposed to be there, but Harry was good at being where he wasn't supposed to be. He stood near the door with Hermione and Ron, quiet. Dumbledore finally lifted the parchment with a floating charm. The handwriting was elegant, calm, confident. To the White One, "You do not belong in this small war. You are wasted guarding children in a school. Meet me, and I will show you how to end this quickly." I can open a way home, and I can stop the fear that fills these halls. Lord Voldemort. Hermione made a strangled sound. Ron went pale. Harry's scar burned once, sharp, like the name had scraped it. Gandalf did not flinch. He stared at the parchment as if it were a dead insect on a plate. "This is his bait," Hermione whispered. Dumbledore's voice was soft. "Yes." Harry's mouth went dry. "He's talking to you." Gandalf's eyes slid to Harry for a second. "He is talking to what he thinks I want," Gandalf said. Ron swallowed. "And what do you want?" Gandalf looked back at the parchment. His voice stayed calm, but there was steel under it. "I want children to sleep without fear," he said, "but I will not buy that with a lie." Dumbledore folded his hands. "He is also testing you," Dumbledore said. "He wants to know how you respond to temptation." Gandalf's gaze lifted. "Then let him learn." Harry's stomach tightened. "You're going to meet him?" Dumbledore's eyes sharpened. "Not in the way he expects." Gandalf turned slightly, staff tapping the stone once. "He wants a private meeting," he said. "He wants to speak into a weakness. He will not get it." Hermione's voice trembled. "But if we ignore it, he'll do something worse." Dumbledore nodded. "Exactly." He rose, robes whispering. "We will answer," he said, "but on our ground, with our eyes open. And with your allies," Gandalf added, looking directly at Harry. Harry blinked. "Me?" Gandalf's expression softened for half a heartbeat. "He is using you as well," he said, "whether you like it or not." Harry's throat tightened. "I never like it." Dumbledore's gaze turned thoughtful and grim. "The thin place under the school," he said quietly, "and the veil in the ministry. They resonate." Hermione swallowed hard, like two doors humming the same note. Gandalf's jaw tightened. "He is trying to make a road," Gandalf said. "A road wide enough for more than one hungry spirit." Harry's scar burned again, as if Voldemort had heard his own plan spoken aloud. Dumbledore moved to the window and looked out at the grounds, at students walking with books and laughter that sounded forced. "We go to the ministry," Dumbledore said. Ron squeaked. "Again?" Dumbledore's eyes flicked toward Ron, not unkind. "We go," he repeated, before he turns that veil into an open mouth. Gandalf's staff tapped once more. "And we seal what we can," he said. Harry felt fear slam into him. Then he felt something else too. Anger. Because Voldemort always moved first. Voldemort always chose the battlefield. Harry wanted to take one choice away from him, even if it scared him. That night, they left quietly. Not students in cloaks sneaking out for adventure. A small team moving like they were walking into a storm. Dumbledore, calm and precise. Kingsley, solid as a wall. Tonks, bright-eyed and tense. Snape, silent and sharp. Gandalf, staff in hand, white cloak pulled tight. Harry went too. He wasn't supposed to. But Gandalf had looked at him and said, "Not alone." Hermione and Ron did not let Harry go without them, even if it meant risking everything. They used a portkey Dumbledore had prepared, hidden inside an ordinary object. A cracked old teacup that looked like it belonged in a cupboard and nowhere else. Harry hated portkeys. The pull felt like being grabbed behind the navel and yanked through a tunnel. Then they landed hard on cold stone. The ministry atrium was empty. The gold statues stood still. The fountain water sounded too loud in the quiet. Harry's scar throbbed like a drumbeat. Gandalf stood very still and looked around. "This place," he said quietly, "is full of secrets." "And arrogance," Snape added, voice like ice. They moved fast. Dumbledore led them through hallways and downstairs, deeper into the ministry where the air felt older and heavier. Harry recognized it before he saw it. That pull in his dream. They reached a wide room with rows of shelves and strange objects in glass cases. Doors led off in every direction, all identical. The Department of Mysteries. Hermione's breathing went shallow. Ron's hand shook on his wand. Gandalf's eyes fixed on one door as if it were shining. "That way," he said. Dumbledore nodded. "Yes." They went through and entered a dim room. In the center stood the veil, a stone arch, a dark curtain that fluttered even though the air was still. Harry's stomach dropped. He could hear whispers at the edge of his hearing, like hundreds of people talking behind a wall. Hermione grabbed Harry's sleeve. "Don't look too long." Harry swallowed. "I can feel it." Gandalf stepped closer, slow, careful, like he was approaching a sleeping beast. He did not touch it. He lifted his staff. The air around the veil tightened. The curtain fluttered harder, and Harry's scar burned like fire. "Here we are," a high voice purred from the shadows. Bellatrix Lestrange stepped out first, wand raised, eyes shining with excitement. Behind her, Death Eaters flowed into the room like black water. Then Voldemort emerged, pale face calm, red eyes bright with hunger. Harry's body went cold. Voldemort's gaze slid past Dumbledore, past Snape, past Kingsley. It landed on Gandalf, and Harry felt the room change. Voldemort smiled. "Gandalf," Voldemort said softly, as if tasting the name. "How kind of you to answer." Gandalf's face did not change. "You summoned a beast to a school," Gandalf said. "You used children as bait. You cut your soul and hid it in one." Voldemort's smile widened, pleased. "Ah, you have learned." Harry's scar screamed. Harry's wand hand tightened. Dumbledore's voice was calm, but the air around him sharpened. "Tom," he said. Voldemort's eyes flicked to Dumbledore like a person glancing at an old, annoying problem. "Albus," he replied. Then Voldemort's attention snapped back to Gandalf. "You do not belong here," Voldemort said. "You are bigger than this. I can give you what you want." Gandalf's voice was steady. "You cannot." Voldemort tilted his head. "You want to go home," he said. "I can open the road. I can tear a door wide enough for you to walk through." Hermione's breath caught. Ron stared at the veil, terrified. Harry felt sick. Voldemort was not offering a gift. He was offering a trap shaped like hope. Gandalf stepped one pace forward, staff planted. "And what is the price?" he asked. Voldemort's smile turned thin. "Only that you stop interfering." Gandalf's eyes hardened. "So children keep bleeding," he said. Voldemort's voice stayed smooth. "Children always bleed," he said lightly, as if stating a fact about weather. "It is not your concern." Something snapped inside Harry. Rage rose like heat. Gandalf's face went cold. "It is my concern," he said. Voldemort's eyes glittered. "Then I will make it your problem." He lifted his wand. The Death Eaters attacked at once. The room exploded into motion. Curses streaked, shields flared, stone cracked. Kingsley moved like a trained fighter, knocking curses aside and firing stunning spells that dropped masked figures. Tonks dodged and countered, bright hair flashing. Snape struck in precise, brutal lines, spells cutting through the air like thrown knives. Dumbledore moved like he was conducting music, not rushing, controlling, turning attacks into smoke, bending blasts away from his people. Bellatrix laughed and danced through the chaos, throwing curses with joy. Harry fired back, teeth clenched, heart hammering. Hermione and Ron stayed tight beside him, covering each other the way they had learned. But Voldemort did not rush into the brawl. He walked toward the veil. That was his true target. He spoke a spell Harry didn't recognize. The veil shuddered. The curtain fluttered hard like something behind it was pressing forward. Cold rolled out. Not Dementor cold. Deeper. The room's lights dimmed at the edges. Hermione's voice cracked. "He's opening it." Gandalf moved. He stepped between Voldemort and the veil. The air tightened as Gandalf raised his staff. White light poured from it, clean and steady, forming a barrier in front of the veil like a wall of dawn. Voldemort's eyes widened slightly. Not fear. Interest. "Excellent," Voldemort whispered. He raised his wand and fired a curse directly into the light. The curse hit the barrier and did not pass through. It did not bounce back either. It simply died, swallowed by brightness. Voldemort's smile faded. His voice sharpened. "You think you can stop a door with light?" Gandalf's voice boomed, and it filled the room like a command. "You will not open it." The veil fluttered harder, as if angry. Harry's scar burned again, and Harry stumbled. Voldemort turned his head slightly toward Harry, eyes gleaming. "Ah," Voldemort said softly. "There you are." Harry felt a tug inside his skull. Not words. A pull, like someone trying to turn a key inside him. Harry gasped, vision blurring. Hermione grabbed him. "Harry!" Gandalf's head turned sharply. He didn't take his staff away from the veil, but his voice cut through the chaos like a blade. "Hold to yourself," Gandalf said. "Do not let him steer you." Harry clenched his jaw and forced his thoughts onto one thing. Ron's voice, Hermione's hand, his own breath. He fought the pull. Voldemort's face tightened in annoyance. Dumbledore stepped forward, wand raised, and sent a spell that wrapped around Voldemort like invisible chains of pressure. Voldemort flicked his wand, tearing the spell apart. "Always trying to bind me," Voldemort said. "And always failing," Dumbledore replied. The veil shuddered again, and the curtain inside it fluttered like it wanted to rip. From behind the curtain, something pressed. A shadow shape formed, thin and hungry. Harry's stomach dropped. It looked like the thing they had trapped under Hogwarts, only worse, more solid, more aware. Hermione whispered, horrified. "He's pulling more through." Gandalf's light strained. Harry could see it now, tiny cracks of darkness pushing against the barrier like fingernails scraping glass. Gandalf's jaw was clenched, sweat beaded at his temples. Even Gandalf, with all his power, was fighting a door that led to death and hunger. Because this wasn't just magic. This was a boundary. Voldemort stepped closer, voice low, tempting. "Let it open," Voldemort said to Gandalf. "Let it show you the road. I will guide you home." Gandalf's eyes flashed, furious. "You would guide me like you guide children into pain." Voldemort's face turned cold. "Then you will break." He raised his wand and began another spell, longer, heavier. The veil shook. The whispering grew louder. Harry's scar screamed so hard he nearly dropped his wand. Then Snape moved like a shadow. He fired a spell at the floor behind Voldemort, not at Voldemort himself. The stone split and sent a burst of dust and debris upward, breaking Voldemort's focus for half a heartbeat. It was enough. Dumbledore struck. Not with a killing curse, with pure control. A force hit Voldemort like a wave, slamming him back 3 steps and wrenching his wand arm up. Bellatrix shrieked. "My lord!" Kingsley and Tonks pressed the Death Eaters harder, forcing them to cover Voldemort. Gandalf used that heartbeat. He planted his staff and pressed both hands to it. The white barrier tightened, becoming smaller and stronger, focused like a lens. The veil's curtain snapped backward, as if pushed by a strong wind from the room side. The shadow shape behind it hissed and recoiled. Hermione's eyes widened. "He's forcing it shut." Gandalf's voice was low and strained. "Not shut," he said. "Held." Because the veil did not close. It was still there. It always would be. But the opening pressure eased. For a second, the whispering faded. Harry could breathe. Voldemort steadied himself, face smooth again, and his red eyes fixed on Gandalf. "You are stubborn," Voldemort said. Gandalf's voice was iron. "I am faithful," he said. Voldemort's mouth curled. "Then I will take something anyway." He flicked his wand toward the veil. Not to open it wider. To cut. A thin line of dark magic snapped across the barrier like a whip. Gandalf's light flared in response. The dark line split into sparks. But a tiny shard of shadow slipped through the chaos, fast as a thought. It darted into the air and vanished into Voldemort's sleeve like a drop of ink soaking into cloth. Harry felt it in his scar like a cold pin. Voldemort smiled again, satisfied. "You see?" Voldemort whispered. "Even when you hold the door, I still learn." Gandalf's eyes hardened. "You stole a splinter," he said. "Not a victory." Voldemort's gaze turned sharp. "A splinter can fester," he replied. Bellatrix threw a blast that forced everyone to duck. Smoke and dust filled the room. When the air cleared, Voldemort was already moving back toward the doorway with his Death Eaters, not fleeing in panic, retreating with purpose. Dumbledore raised his wand to pursue, but the veil shuddered again, and Dumbledore's eyes snapped to it. He made a choice. He stayed, because if they chased Voldemort, the door might open behind them. Voldemort paused at the threshold and looked back one last time. His eyes locked on Harry, then on Gandalf. He smiled like a person promising a future fight. "Guard your school," Voldemort said softly. "Guard your children. You will get tired." Then he was gone. The room fell into a heavy quiet, broken only by breathing and the faint flutter of the veil. Harry's knees felt weak. He leaned on Ron for a second without thinking. Ron didn't complain. Hermione's eyes were wet, and she didn't even try to hide it. Dumbledore lowered his wand slowly. His face looked older. Gandalf stood before the veil, staff still planted, light faded now to a small, steady glow at its tip. He turned to Dumbledore. "He took something," Gandalf said. Dumbledore nodded once. "Yes," he said softly, "and he will use it." Harry swallowed. "What did he take?" Gandalf's gaze went distant, as if feeling the shape of it. "A mark," he said. "A taste of the door. A way to find it again." Hermione's voice shook. "So we didn't stop him." Gandalf's eyes met hers. "We stopped the flood," he said. "We did not stop the rain." They left the ministry before dawn, moving fast, shoulders tight, wounds small but real. When they returned to Hogwarts, the castle felt like it exhaled when Gandalf stepped inside. Even the torches seemed to burn steadier. Umbridge was waiting at the entrance hall like she had camped there all night, face pinched, eyes furious. "You left the school," she snapped at Harry. Hermione, Ron, Neville, and Luna, voice shaking with outrage. "You! And you took him." Her finger jabbed at Gandalf. "This," she hissed, "will be reported." Dumbledore stepped forward, calm and terrible. "You may report what you like, Dolores," he said. Umbridge's face twisted. The minister will do what the minister always does," Dumbledore replied, voice gentle, "which is whatever he believes keeps him safe." Umbridge's mouth opened. No words came out. Gandalf looked at her, not with anger now, but with pity that somehow felt worse. "You will keep trying to hold this world with paper," Gandalf said quietly. "And paper burns." Umbridge went red and stormed away, heels clicking like angry insects. Harry watched her go, heart still pounding. He turned to Gandalf. "Are you leaving?" Harry asked, voice rough. Gandalf looked at him for a long moment. Then he looked up at the towers, at the moving stairs, at the windows where children slept. "I can go," Gandalf said. "But the door I came through is still thin, and your enemy has learned its taste." Harry's stomach dropped. "So you're staying?" Gandalf nodded once. "Until it is sealed as much as it can be," he said. Harry didn't know what to say. Relief hit him first, then fear, then something like gratitude that hurt. Gandalf placed a hand on Harry's shoulder, steady and warm. "You are not your enemy," Gandalf said quietly. "Do not let his peace inside you convince you otherwise." Harry swallowed hard. "I try." Gandalf's eyes softened. "Then keep trying," he said, "but not alone." Weeks later, on a clear night, Harry climbed the astronomy tower. The sky was cold and bright with stars. The air smelled clean, like the world had washed itself. Gandalf stood by the railing, staff resting against stone, looking out over the grounds. He didn't look lonely. He looked watchful. Harry approached quietly. Gandalf didn't turn. "You walk like a soldier now," he said. Harry tried to smile. "I don't want to." Gandalf nodded. "Good," he said. "Wanting it would be worse." They stood in silence for a moment, listening to the wind. Down below, the lake glinted faintly. The forbidden forest was a dark mass of trees. Harry's scar was quiet tonight. Not gone. Quiet. Harry breathed in slowly. "Do you ever get tired?" he asked. Gandalf's voice was calm. "Yes," he said simply. "Often." Harry frowned. "But you keep going." Gandalf turned then, eyes bright in the starlight. "So do you," he said. Harry looked down at his hands. He remembered the veil, the cold, the shadow shards slipping into Voldemort. "We stopped him," Harry said, half a question. Gandalf's gaze went toward the horizon. "We stopped him from making a road tonight," he said. "But he will not stop walking." Harry's throat tightened. "So what changes?" Gandalf's answer was simple. "We change," he said. "We learn. We stand together. We refuse to become what we fight." Harry swallowed. "That's hard." Gandalf's mouth twitched. "Yes," he said. "That is why it matters." A soft, fluttering sound came from above. An owl landed on the railing between them, very proud of itself. It held a letter. Harry blinked. How did it even find us up here? The owl hooted like it was saying, "Obviously." Gandalf stared at it with the same tired disappointment as always. He took the letter gently. The owl puffed its feathers and leaned toward him like it expected praise. Gandalf sighed. "Brave little bird," he said. The owl hooted happily. Gandalf added, "Still not an eagle." The owl snapped its beak at his fingers in insult. Harry let out a real laugh, short, surprised, and honest. The sound felt strange in his throat, like using a muscle he hadn't used in a long time. Gandalf's eyes softened as he watched Harry. Harry wiped his face quickly, embarrassed at how close the laugh came to something else. Then he looked out over Hogwarts. Down in the darkness, somewhere inside the castle, students slept. Teachers kept watch. Portraits whispered. Secrets waited. And far away, Voldemort planned. Harry's voice was quiet. "Do you think people will ever trust you?" he asked. Gandalf looked back at the castle and spoke without anger. "Some will," he said. "Some will not. Trust is earned slowly. Fear is earned quickly." Harry nodded, understanding. Gandalf's hand rested on the stone railing. "But the story has changed," he said. "They have seen what light can do." Harry's scar stayed quiet. The wind moved over the tower, cool and steady. Harry looked up at the stars and thought about doors between worlds and about how small he felt next to them. Then he thought about Neville stepping forward even when spells didn't work, about Hermione slamming runes onto stone with shaking hands, about Ron standing beside him even when he was terrified, about Dumbledore choosing to stay and guard the veil instead of chasing revenge, about Gandalf standing in front of a door that whispered like death. Harry took a slow breath. He didn't feel safe, but he felt less alone. Gandalf's voice was low, almost gentle. "Even here," he said, looking over Hogwarts, "small hands can hold back the dark." Harry nodded, and the words settled in his chest like a steady weight. Not a promise that everything would be fine. A promise that they would keep standing anyway.